Hey guys, you heard of Little House on the Prairie? We're looking for the books.
Little what?
Little House on the Prairie. The show. We're looking for the books.
Are you guys from Jackass?
Jackass? No, we're from Prairie Talk. Wait, what the hell's in all that? God. Prairie Talk. Prairie Talk. Prairie Talk. Oh, it's a new show, Prairie. Damn kids.
So another log's on the fire, and so another edition of Prairie Talk is upon us. Prairie Talk with Blades and Mayo. I'm Shane Blades.
And I'm Craig Mayo.
Welcome everyone. Hope you're having a great evening.
Thank you for joining us today. We got another great half hour of television history for you. And this is going to start it. This little game up here. See this, the Little House on the Prairie board game. Mm-hmm. And what we want to do is email us and say, hey, I want to be a part of this. I want to play that game. And whoever wins, they get to come down and play the game with us.
Mm-hmm. That's right. They get to come down here and meet the old Shanester and the Craigster. Maybe sign a couple John Hancocks for you. Got to have some headshots laying around. Maybe you'd like them. It gives us a chance to meet us and realize that we're just real people like you. You know what I mean? And it gives you a chance to go out there and play the official Little House on the Prairie board game, which everybody's excited about.
And it'll give you a chance to be on the show too, because we're gonna tape the game playing and just let everybody see all the fun that we had with this game.
You too could be a superstar. Think about that for a second, huh? How would that change your life? And don't forget to email us. Our email address is prairietalktv@aol.com. Give us some feedback. I'll tell you what, we get so many emails each day. It's so exciting to go through them and get your feedback and your suggestions on what we can do to make the show any better.
It helps keep us going. That's why we're here, is to help share Little House trivia and the lifestyle with everybody, and that's what we want to share with you, and we want you to share with us.
Getting your emails is like a little Tony Robbins motivational tape.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Today's a very special episode. What we're going to go through is some of our favorite episodes. And how many episodes were there total, Craig?
I'd say 122.
I think that's 186.
That's correct. 122
186?
episodes, on the books.
So, let's get started.
Let's get started right into it. Let's get started with the Prairie Talk. Okay?
So, Shane, I want to know what your favorite episode is. Tell me about it.
It's funny you ask that, Craig. One of my favorite shows is, it's not that popular of a show, actually. It didn't get much press, but I enjoyed it a lot, and it's called Four Eyes.
With Mary.
With Mary. It was brought to the air September 17th, 1975. The premise of the story, Mary, this was before she was blind,
Mm-hmm. She was young, yeah.
She was younger, right? And although she wasn't blind, she had a little trouble, seeing, visualizing. So next thing you know, she had to get glasses, okay?
Yeah.
And when you're young and you get glasses, what happens when you go to school?
Four eyes.
Oh, God, did she ever get it.
My sister had glasses, and I know what she went through, even though like now you look back on it, it's like, hey, you have glasses, it's a beautiful thing, and be proud of your glasses.
Yeah,
and it's
be proud of them.
They could be like a style statement, but you know how parents are too, they kind of like get those cheap plastic ones or whatever.
Yeah, the Harry Carey glasses, the big bifocals. The thing of it is look, even Hollywood today, they're all wearing these little glasses, non-prescription, just to look cool, so it all comes back in style.
But you don't get that when you're a kid like Mary.
No, poor Mary. Poor Mary. So, what happens is she gets to school, of course, she just gets the hell made fun out of her. You know what I mean? It was terrible. So what
well, the kids get tired of chasing each other around in circles, so it's like, hey, what do we do now? The seesaw's too I'm bored of that. Hey, we'll make fun of Mary.
Mary, exactly. It was a scapegoat to get away from the constant, they were getting dizzy. All they did was run around in circles.
I know. We've got to interview some of those kids and see what it was like, because that was... How do they do that? I mean, you don't just run around in circles, or else it's
not fun.
No.
It's stupid, actually.
There's got to be a motive to...
Yeah, and there was no motive. But, yeah, so Mary, what she did on the way home from school one day is she took them little whippersnappers off, put them in little tree bark, hit them.
Yes, I remember that.
Remember that? And then she goes back. I'll be damned. What'd she say? What'd she say? I'm quizzing you right now.
They're lost.
She lost them, right? Mom and Pa weren't too upset. They weren't that upset. They were a little bit disappointed in her. Here's a big kicker, all right? This is where the whole story turns around. Mary goes to school, sees her teacher, Mrs. Beadle, at the time. Wearing what?
Wearing glasses. Wearing glasses. But she was with...
Who was she with?
A beau.
And he was a hotshot lawyer.
He was a suitor.
Oh, big suit. And back then, that was a big deal, right? He wasn't no hick farmer like Charles. He was a money-making machine.
If I remember right, he had like a black stagecoach, kind of like the Doc Baker had.
It was almost like the Lamborghini of the stagecoach, you know what I mean? So she sees this. Mary realizes how stupid this was, right?
Yeah.
So what does she do? She gets some little glasses.
Yes.
Puts them back on her face.
Keep going.
Goes back to school.
Keep going.
And the girl that made fun of her the most, who was it?
Nellie.
Bitch Nellie Olson, right?
Ugh.
What happens? Mary kicks Nellie's ass in the history exam.
She was, I remember, like, they would use those fuzzy shots, like, and she would look like that, and then they cut to the board, and it was fuzzy.
Fuzzy, yeah.
And Mary was getting bad grades, and she never admitted it for like the first 15 minutes of the episode.
I know, it was terrible.
Yeah.
To you kids out there, if you're wearing glasses or you have braces, don't feel like you're not better than anyone else. Go out there and knock them dead. That's my advice. Okay. All right. Moving on. Now it's my turn to ask you, Craig. What is one of your favorites from the Little House Saga?
Well, one of my favorite episodes is called The Raccoon. It aired November 20th, 1974. So what happens in this episode is a raccoon comes.
Yeah.
Or Laura takes on a pet raccoon. And what happens is, and his name is Jasper. Jasper, their pet raccoon. The raccoon gets in with the chickens.
Right.
And kills a few of the chickens.
Right.
And then the Ingalls find out that it's rabid. And they think that Jasper did this.
Yeah.
And it bit the dog, and Laura got involved. So then Laura thought she was going to die. Because of the rabies. So everybody's stressed out. And the whole time you're watching the episode, you think that Jasper bit the dog, got Laura infected, and killed the chickens. Their pet Jasper,
So Jasper's taking the whole frickin' blame.
Yeah.
For this whole shebango.
Yeah.
And he had nothing to do with it.
And it's chaos. And what happens is they're about to kill the dog.
No.
Yeah. Charles is about to kill Jack, the dog, because they think he's rabid.
Christmas.
And he's about to shoot the dog, and you're like, don't kill Jack.
Hey, stop it, yeah.
Stop, don't kill Jack.
Yeah.
And Jack's got his, and he's like on the edge of his, because, and Pa, it's a cut between Pa and the dog's crazy. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Pa hears the Jasper sound, because Jasper makes a special noise.
Right.
Or whatever.
How could you forget it?
And you turn around because and Jasper's still alive. Oh, and that's why, because they killed the original rabid raccoon. So, and they thought it was Jasper because, hey, raccoons pretty much look alike unless you're a raccoon.
They
you
do.
probably tell each other apart.
Well, you know, they might think human beings all look alike, too.
Yeah.
If you take it from a raccoon's point of view, if they're looking at us, they're like, hey, you guys look the same.
Exactly.
So we can't really put ourselves into their position to make that judgment.
Yeah, so what happens is they hear Jasper, and then Pa goes, Jasper's alive. That means we killed the other raccoon, and the other rabid raccoon.
Right.
So they got to keep Jasper.
Right.
Jack stayed alive. Laura was just head sick.
Yeah. At Laura.
She's like, she for her whole episode, I'm dying, but it's just all in her head.
Right, just a little psychological,
Yeah.
you know, flimsy right there. Yeah.
So it was a happy ending, and you didn't know it was going to be a happy ending until the ending.
I'm glad you bring that episode because I gotta admit, it was one of those episodes that kind of got stuck back here in loss of memory bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't recall it, but now that you mentioned it, I realize it was a great episode, and I thank you for bringing it
Yeah,
up.
and kids, when you think of this episode, the moral of this story, I would say, is make sure you know what's going on before you judge.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
It's good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice to the kids out there, anybody else who might be watching. It's something that, you know, you need to be aware of.
Yeah.
Good job, man.
All right, man.
All right.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, let's slow it down.
Okay.
Let's take a break for a second. Little T.O. baby, as
Okay.
Dick Vitale would say.
Yes.
Let's have, and I think the audience knows what we're kind of getting into.
I know what you're getting at.
Absolutely. Another edition of
Welcome, Melissa
Gilbert.
Every week we try.
Mm-hmm.
We pray, we hope that Melissa Gilbert will come on this show.
That's right. And maybe one day she will. And I think that day is not mañana, it's today. Today. I really think it's going to happen this time. So without further ado, let's welcome
Melissa Gilbert. Everybody,
Come on,
come on, crowd.
Come on,
there you go. Yeah, louder.
Our studio audience.
Okay, actually, that's crazy. Oh,
Melissa Gilbert. How many times is it going to happen?
How many times is she gonna? What is it? She's not gonna come. She's gonna stand us up.
What is it? What am I? Is this my high school prom date? Or, I mean, what's with all the standing up? I don't get it. I mean, are we not good enough? I mean, is our show not good enough? Is our material not good enough?
Embarrass us in front of everybody?
What other show dedicates a whole half hour to Little House on the Prairie besides us? And this is what we get treated with. Non-Melissa Gilbert showing upness.
Yeah.
All right. You know what?
Well,
forget about it. What's the show called?
Prairie Talk.
And what do?
We talk.
That's right. Let's get back to the talking.
Well, hey, it's back to you now.
All right.
Another great episode.
This one is not only a great episode, it's, in my opinion, the best episode ever.
Oh. Wow, we're getting right to the top.
Yeah, I'm cutting no corners here. I'm going to bring it up right now, get a little emotional when I talk about it. This particular episode is called The Odyssey. It was brought to our attention on March 19th, 1979. The Odyssey is a telling tale. Laura and Albert
Yes.
meet this little guy named Dylan, right?
Okay.
Dylan was a nice boy. Hell of a guy, heart of gold, he had a loving family. But Mom was a little overprotective because Dylan, quizzing you, what did Dylan have?
Leukemia.
Listen, Dylan was about ready to take a dirt nap, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and before he did so, his dream was to see the ocean.
Yes, and wasn't he a creative type too? Wasn't he like a poet or something?
He wrote poetry,
Yeah.
and he wrote about the ocean.
You would think Mary would like him because remember in that other episode, Mary fell in love with Mr. Edward's son.
That's true.
And he
Who
was
wrote
a
poetry.
poetry, exactly.
Right, and he didn't want to shoot a gun, and Edwards got all pissed. Yeah, old Mr. Edwards.
Mr. Tough Guy.
Yeah, Mr. Tough Guy that couldn't read, we came to find out that
Yeah.
episode. Remember that?
That was another great one.
Another great episode.
But
So, you got to figure, I mean, the Ingalls, they're thousands of miles away from the ocean, right? Mm-hmm. Thousands of miles. There was no Delta.
Minnesota there is. They're in
Minnesota, right. There's no TWA.
No.
There's no airlines. There's no cars. or
Taxi,
like that. Yeah.
heli.
What do they have? They have these trains that go 10 miles an hour down the tracks, right?
Yeah.
So what do Laura and Albert decide to do? Out of the kindness of their hearts.
They're going to take him to the ocean.
Which ocean, east or west?
Pacific.
I tried to get you on that. You got him.
Why not the Atlantic? It's only a little closer, but you know what? That's too easy.
That's too easy. It'd be way too easy.
It's more romantic to head to the Pacific.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what they do is one fine day, Laura and Albert take Dylan. They go to the train station.
They leave a message for Ma and Pa.
They leave a message not to worry. But
Yes.
of course, being the loving parents the Ingalls are, they're like, holy crapola.
Yeah.
Right?
They could.
So,
the parents could have just like said, all right, see you later,
Yeah.
kids. But no.
See you later, and don't ever come back.
Oh.
But they were not like that, right?
No.
So Laura and Albert and the whole crew make it as far as, I believe, one of the Dakotas at the next train stop. And they were, what is it called?
They're hobos.
Hoboing.
Yeah.
They're hoboing, right?
Hoboing.
Right, and they actually got taken advantage of by a hobo.
Yeah.
In that one scene. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
He took their food and took,
Yeah, and it's like kids. It's like they're kids.
But what did Laura do? Do you remember?
No.
Okay. That hobo was about to throw Albert off the train.
Oh yes.
Laura comes up behind, pushes that bastard off, and we see him tumble. What a whippersnapper she is.
I know.
Huh?
She's
I'll tell you what.
together they bonded. Yes.
They form as one. That's what I'm talking about. They all show a side of a personality. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So they get to the train station, and who's waiting on them?
Pa.
Oh, was he pissed? Was he pissed?
He was,
Right.
and he thought he was taking them back.
But
But
then,
you know what?
it's not going to happen. It's not going to
They
happen.
took him on.
You know what they did? They put a guilt trip on him. First of all,
I
Dylan.
remember that guilt
yeah,
trip. That's like one of the highlights of the show, besides the actual
It was
ending.
so emotional. It was so emotional. Because Dylan's he's like, let me do a little reenactment here.
All right. Camera's on you.
Mr. Ingalls, listen, I can completely understand that you're mad and upset, and you can take Laura and Albert back.
That deep cough from just right in the lung.
Yeah, I can't do it because I
that
got
was
a cold.
pretty good.
No, wasn't
though.
that? Was it convincing? Okay.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. What do you want me to go back for? Why does Mom want to see me again? So she could watch me die? I'm dying, Charles. My dream was to see the ocean. And that's what I want to do, whether you go with me or not.
And Pa is just entranced. He's like,
Oh.
he eats it up, and he's, what can he do but go with them?
And what does he do?
He goes with them.
He hobos with him. That train starts going off, and all they're hiding behind the bushes, Then
Yeah.
Paul just runs along. They all jump on board. So they get all the way to California.
Yes.
They get off there. They meet a gentleman, a rich guy. Kind of seems snobby at first, right? What does this rich guy end up doing? Do you remember?
Newspapers, Hearst.
And what does he do for them?
He drives them to the beach in his convertible. And I think the guy says, here, take this money because you have given me a new spirit today.
That's right.
About giving
That's
in
right.
life.
Giving in life.
Yeah.
And that guy found a new, he had a new outlook on life himself. So what was he going to do to repay? Give Charles a little moolah,
Yeah,
huh?
because he has a lot anyway, so that's his gift.
That's his whole thing right there. So what happens is, the very ending scene was touching. It's set on the beach. All we see is Charles, Laura, Albert, and then we see Dylan. Dylan walks out into the ocean. And he, he was sick, and, the ocean was cold. And with his very last burst of energy, he raises his arms up towards the heaven, and he's like, "Ocean!"
And you
that's
know
it.
what? I can't help but think, but that's Zuma Beach.
I think you're right.
Every time I see an ocean scene, and that ocean scene, I think Zuma Beach, right down there at the end with the cliff. So through that emotion to help pull me out of it, so people don't see me like all choked up, I think Zuma Beach.
Yeah, I can't help. It don't help me though. You know what I mean?
Doesn't help you. Next.
So let's cut it down. The moral of the story, kids: if you have cancer,
leukemia,
or whatever it may be, go to the ocean. What's your next one?
I'm pulling this one out. It's a two-parter.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I had to, thank God for reruns again, because, as a young kid, I would have had to wait all week for the part 2, but...
Sure.
It's actually, I would say, a very special Little House on the Prairie. Even before there was very special episodes.
That was a Hallmark moment, Craig.
Yeah.
That was a Hallmark moment.
Oh, it was a okay. Hallmark moment. This was a Hallmark moment episode, and it takes place, and actually the main character is a little girl, a special guest star.
Really?
A girl we've never really seen before.
I think I know where you may be getting at. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and Albert falls in love with her, like he did every little girl. And
I believe this one has a sad ending.
It does. Well, what happens is there's a blacksmith in town whom we've never seen before.
Never. Wonder who's going to be the bad guy in this episode.
So anyway, what happens is this little girl is walking home from school one day, and the reason it is in my mind is because I remember this one as a kid. And this bad guy wore a mask, one of those see-through ones with the red cheeks and the eyes. Scary.
It was like a 19th century Michael Myers.
Yes, yes.
You know what I mean?
And it was very haunting to me as a kid. And that's why I remember it now.
Yeah.
And what happens is very sad, is this little girl gets raped by this mask. And it was very
graphic.
Yeah, and what the awful part about it is she had a very unloving father.
Right.
So she had to hide this secret.
And they wanted to have you believe that maybe it was a father.
Yeah,
Remember?
exactly.
Remember?
That at some points in the thing, it was like, did her father... What?
Little incest, little Louisiana, Arkansas thing going on here. What?
It was touching on a lot of big issues.
Sure it was.
Meanwhile, the blacksmith's like, bonk, 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 and everybody likes him.
And Albert was working for him, right?
Yes,
and like the guy was nice as hell, and he was just a...
Gave him a job. And
hey.
And Albert even confided in him a little bit, like, there's some problems here with this girl, and because she was freaking out. She wasn't, even like at school, she was like regressing, and she wouldn't talk to people, and she even like... made Albert feel distant at times, when it was like, what did I do? They were going to get married even and
She was scared. She was scared. You know what I mean? I think she was scared of anybody that had a third leg. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I mean?
You can only
imagine.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen Stir of Echoes?
Seen it.
There's an awful scene in there. It's just like, same kind of thing. And so what happens with this little girl is, and the father just does not understand her. And what happens in the peak of this is like, of course, the guy in the mask is chasing the little girl, and Albert and Pa and her father all like know what's going on, and they end up in this barn. And she's like, no, and this guy's chasing her, and then everybody comes, and she's climbing this ladder, and he's grabbing her feet.
You know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen when she starts climbing that ladder.
It falls backwards. And what happens...
Damn.
Do you remember what happens?
Paul and Albert showed up, am I not correct? And Paul beats the hell out of the masked man. Am I not correct?
And they find out who it is.
And then
finally.
it's like, you know what it reminded me of? Not to make this humorous or anything, because it was a terrible, it was a terrible scene. But it's almost like a Scooby-Doo episode. Like the whole gang's gathered around the bad guy, and it's time to unveil,
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You know, oh, you pesky kids, you know, I could have got away with it if it was. So, they reveal the masked rapist, and who else would it be?
The black shoe guy.
That shocker.
And
I remember how it ends.
how does it end?
Okay. If I recall, the little girl was transported to the offices of Doc Baker.
Yes.
She's laying in the bed. We see a scene of Laura, Albert, and Charles in the waiting room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doc Baker comes out, and he's like, she wants to see you, son. Talking to Albert.
Yeah.
Albert goes in.
Very solemn and comes up to the bedside, and they look into each other's eyes, and if I don't say it exactly right, just she says something like, she says, Albert, you are my only love.
Very close. Albert?
Let's have a little quiz. What does she exactly say?
Can't remember the specifics. I remember they did have a little banter back and forth about marriage. How we're going to get married, right? And then at the very end, before she takes her last breath, she peeps out, Albert, my one and only love. And then takes a dirt nap right there. Oh God, what a scene. I want to give the audience a moral to the story.
After 2 hours, she dies.
2 hours of living with this girl, feeling her pain, and watching her die. She dies.
And kids, it's a tough moral, but I guess the moral of this story is morals. 2 hours. This episode was about morals.
I'll tell you what, I couldn't have put that any better myself. What's the key word?
Morals.
Morals.
Wow, dude. That was a powerful ending.
It was a powerful ending, and you know what? I think it brought out the best in both of us. Showed our emotions. It lets the audience know that we care, and that we are into the show.
Little House has 122
I think that's 186.
But I think we did a pretty good job in
picking some of the few kernels that we really enjoyed.
Yeah. So, you know, we hope you enjoyed it. And again, join us here each and every week for Prairie Talk. All right, Craig? Well, any last words?
Good times.
And good friends.